There is a series of LED lights with different colors on the S7 CPUs, which shows us the modes of the PLC in different situations. Our intention in this lesson is to learn what each and every one of these LED lights indicates. The first LED light that we have here is the SF LED light, also known as the system fault. When this red light turns on, it indicates that there is an error in our system. Now, this error could be either a software error, such as an error that has happened during the programming, or a hardware error, for instance, a power loss in the power supply of one of the modules. For example, suppose one digital input module is next to a CPU module and is transferring data with the CPU. In this situation, if the power supply of this DI module for any reason gets disconnected, the functionality of this module comes to a halt and it can't exchange data with the CPU anymore. In this situation, the moment that the power supply of the module gets disconnected, the SF LED light on the CPU turns on, and now we can say that the reason for it is an error in the hardware of the system. Therefore, the reason for the activation of the system fault LED light could be either a software or a hardware error. The next light that's on here is the bus fault indicator LED light. This red light also turns on to let us know that there is an error in the network we have. For instance, if we have used a Profibus DP network, it could be that one of the connectors didn't connect correctly. Or perhaps there's a disconnection in the cables in the network. Or it could be that there's been an overlap between the addresses of the facilities in our network. For example, if we have chosen 2 for the CPU address in the network configuration, and then mistakenly we choose 2 for another module address, like CP module, this causes an address overlap, and hence the bus fault light will come on. The next LED light is the maintenance light. Whenever this yellow light is on, it indicates that the CPU is not running anymore, and it needs service and troubleshooting. This situation rarely happens in industry. Anyway, we need to know that whenever the CPU is not able to run its program and this yellow light is on, it means that the CPU needs troubleshooting. The next LED light is the DC 5 volts LED. Whenever this green light is on, it shows that the 24-volt power supply for the CPU is provided and the CPU is running. The next LED light is a yellow light called force. Whenever this light comes on, it indicates that at least one of the PLC inputs or outputs is in force mode. But what does this force mode mean? In simple words, force mode means that we force one of the inputs or outputs of the PLC to be 1 or null. For example, consider an incoming signal of a 24-volt digital input module. This signal can potentially have 2 values, meaning that it could be either at 0 volts value, which corresponds to a logic 0, or it could be at 24 volt, which corresponds to a logic 1. Now, suppose that the actual value of the signal that is sent to the DI module is 0 volts by default, which is equivalent to a logic 0. In this case, if we do some rearrangements through the facilities that the Step 7 software is providing us with such that the DI module virtually receives 24 volts, which is equivalent to a logic 1 instead of 0 volts, this is called forcing. In fact, forcing is a software facility with which we are able to force the PLC inputs to have a value other than their actual value. As we already said, we could do the same for the outputs of the PLC as well. In the future lessons, we're going to discuss how to force inputs and outputs in more detail. Okay, the next LED light is the run light. This green LED light comes on whenever the CPU is in the process of running a downloaded program. So whenever this light is on, it means that the CPU is running its programs perfectly and there's no problem in the process. And finally, the last LED light that we have on the CPU is the Stop Red LED light. This light turns on whenever we either manually bring the CPU to a stop mode by means of a selector that's on the CPU, or due to a software or hardware error, the CPU is not able to run its program and hence it gets into a stop mode. So whenever you see that this LED light is on, the reason could be that it has been brought to a stop mode manually by means of a selector key, or it could be due to a problem in the CPU, and it has been brought to a stop mode automatically. Okay, so in this lesson, we've become familiar with CPU indicators and have learned the meaning of each and every one of the LED indicator lights.